Before I check in, I just wanted to thank God for everything. I just wanted to thank as well anyone who came across from Gravitated Arts, the blog. Thank you for the continuous support, especially if you've been supporting it since December last year. Also, thank you to you, the listener, for pressing play. And don't forget, this Friday, my friend Cholius releases his new single, Gravitated Arts, available August 19th. Welcome to Gravitated Arts, the podcast. I can't believe I just said that. Podcast. Oh man, I've been waiting for this for like a long time to be able to have a platform. And so it's it's goosebump feeling having this all set up now. But going forward, I have two main goals for this. And within those goals, I have two series in mind. The first one is Journally, and the second one is Interviews. Journally is journal and journey put together, and I got Journally, and Interviews is obviously interviews. For Journally, I'll be just speaking about different topics that are interest to me or things that I feel are important that should be shared. And then on Interviews, I'll be going around meeting new people, meeting people I already know, and just getting their stories and hopefully be able to share them on this platform, Gravitated Arts, the podcast. In today's episode, I will be speaking about Not About I. This is a bit, I'm a bit nervous to do this one because it's just, part of me is overthinking it, but then at the same time, it's just a bit pressuring because it could go south or it could go north. But I'm going to go ahead with it because I know that I want to have this as the first thing that I put out so that people know the foundation of Gravitated Arts and where it comes from. Gravitated Arts is not about I. It's about my teacher. It's about younger people. It's about the world, trying to impact the world positively through words and stories. When I came up with the saying not about I was speaking more and relating it to my beliefs. I believe in Jesus, for someone who may not already know. And I believe in Jesus because I believe he loves me. I believe in his love for me because of my mother's love for me. Growing up, my dad died when I was little. And so my mom looked after my siblings and I. And something I came to understand very early is the fact that parenting is not compulsory. It's not compulsory for anyone to raise their children. That's why there's things like foster care, and some kids go up for adoption, and sadly as well, some kids get abandoned. Now, fortunately for myself and my siblings, our mom was always there. She was with us, and from her presence, I understood her love for me. And something I believe in is I took her love for me and I related that to God. I believe God loves me because I experienced my mother's love. Before this understanding of love, of the love God has for me and the love my mother has for me, I will say that, yes, I did grow up in a Christian house. And for school, once we got to Australia, from about prep up until year 8, I went to a Christian school. And so those two periods in my life played an instrumental part in today. Though what really made the biggest difference was around about 2019. In 2019, I was 20 years old. And at that time, that's when I myself decided to take up following Jesus. Now, before that, it was something I was born into, and it was something that I had just been aware of, but it was never something I consciously said to myself, I myself want to follow this man. Around this time, 2019, it just so happened as well that I'd started learning about depression and anxiety, and the world around me started overwhelming me so much. And I think it was one of my lowest moments. So in my lowest moments, that's when I reached out and decided for myself, I want to follow God. Now, one of my reasons for reaching out and trying to invest my time into God was one of the reasons early on in primary school, in prep. I remember I used to tune in to Bible stories. The reason I tuned into them was because I had always heard that God was someone who seeked good. And I knew that there was a God and there was a devil. God was good, the devil was bad. And personally, I was scared of anything bad. Excuse me. And so I had always tuned into the good. And around about 2019, when depression and anxiety started taking up a lot of the space in my mind, I knew that this man, God, was someone I knew was for good. And so I decided to reach out to him because I wanted to escape that mindset and that mind state that I was in. Do I think that I may seem crazy from someone else's perspective? I do. I believe that from someone who doesn't believe in what I believe in, from their perspective, it'd be crazy to believe in what I believe in. But why do I continue to believe in what I believe in? I continue to believe because it's for the greater good. It's kind of like racism. If someone told me today racism will never end, okay, that might be true, but I'd rather be optimistic and look at the positive side and think to myself, racism can end. And it comes back to my belief. Okay, he may not be true, but the greater good is his love. It's the fact that he wants the best for the world. He wanted the best for the world, and so I'd rather believe in the good than just surrender and think, oh, it doesn't exist. It's like the racism thing again. If someone told me racism will never end, okay, it could be true. But I'd rather move forward believing that there is an end to it. Now, that explains a little bit about my beliefs and why I believe in God. And I hope that it makes sense to you and that you can understand about now, whenever you see that not about I, you know what that relates to and what that means. I wanted to speak now about the why about Gravitated Arts. And I read that a bit at the start if you had heard it. And I said, Gravitated Arts, it's not about I. It's about my teacher. It's about younger people. It's about the world. Trying to impact the world positively through words and stories. The first section there, I'd already talked about, the not about I. The second section, it's about my teacher. I had a teacher in 2016. I met her for the first time in 2016. Her name was Mrs. Jody Coram. And I remember I met her at a homework help club at Humidge. And I remember the day I met her was a Tuesday. And I was partnered with her. And I showed her a piece of assessment that I needed help on, an English assessment. And then she gave me feedback. And the next week I came back and I showed her what I had done. And she was just amazed. And she's like, wow, did you write this? And she was just really shocked and surprised. And then she was like, this is really good. And I remember just hearing those words, this is really good. And for the rest of that year, I just took those words and I decided to run with it. And I used that as motivation. And I started doing my best in English. I clearly remember in 2016, I started getting B's and A's. That was the highest I'd ever gotten. And this was all thanks to this one lady and her few words of, this is really good. And it just goes to show that sometimes the least amount of words mean the most to people. And Mrs. Jody was an example of those words and how much it meant to me. And it meant a lot to me because throughout most of school, I wasn't the type of kid that got praise or got told, good job on your work. Early on, maybe in year 3, I had really neat handwriting and teachers would tell me your handwriting is neat. But other than my handwriting, I never got any really positive comments. And in 2016, in year 11, that's when I first heard these words that uplifted me. And I started to see a sense of care. I thought that she cared for me and I just enjoyed working alongside her and showing her my work. A year after meeting Mrs. Coram, I graduated and I decided to send her an email just giving her thanks for everything she had done for me. And I remember her just replying back. And at the end of her email, she said, whether you end up doing this as a career or not, don't ever stop writing. And today is 2022. It is the 18th of April, 2022. It has been 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. It's been 5 years since finishing school, and she sent that email on December 12, 2017, if I remember clearly. And I can remember just ever since I received that email, it's just been something that I constantly think of. I think of her words of "don't ever stop writing," and it's just been something that I've been conscious about, and I've wanted to just continue to do it, because this lady who I met in 2016 and who a year later sent this wonderful email encouraged me to never stop writing, I've continued and I've tried my best to not stop. And in my pursuit to not oh no. I just remembered she actually sent that email in October. Yeah, she sent that in October 12, not December. Sorry about that. But in my pursuit not to stop, something that I didn't even intend to really do it, but just this is what happens when you decide to follow something that you don't know what will happen. You know, I received her email and I thought to myself, I'm not going to stop. And 5 years later, I find myself running a blog and now starting a podcast. And all of this links back to writing and it links back to words. And so I just give so much thanks to my teacher. And that's why she's a part of the why of why I do this. The second part of the why is it's about younger people. Now, it's about younger people because in my life, as much as we say to ourselves, and I'm a victim of this, as much as we say we don't have any regrets looking back, I do have moments where I do look back and I wish maybe I didn't do that. But in saying that, I understand that there's no way you can go back and fix what you messed up on. However, younger people. Now, it's about younger people because I know that by speaking about things that I've done wrong and by acknowledging things I've done wrong, hopefully a younger person can listen and not make the same mistake I made. And if this happens, I feel like I can't go back and fix what younger me messed up in. But if I can help a younger person out there not make the same mistake, I feel like I help the younger me because I see myself in them. And so by me acknowledging something I went wrong in, and then a younger person seeing that and learning from that and being like, I don't want to do that, I feel like I help the younger me. And so that's why younger people are part of the why. I want this platform, Gravitated Arts, to be a platform where mistakes can be acknowledged and younger people can learn from them. And really, the older people who acknowledge those mistakes, by doing this, they would be leaving the world in a better place because they've left the younger people with the wisdom that they need to not repeat history, the negative side of history, because there's parts of history that don't need to be repeated. The last part of the why is it's about the world. The world is a scary place. The world is a big, big place. And there's so much things in the world that it's hard to believe that we live in the world that we live in sometimes, and to believe that some of the things that happen. But in knowing this, one of the goals is to try impact the world positively through words and stories. I'm a firm believer in storytelling. I love stories, and I know how much stories have impacted my life for the good. And hopefully through the stories that I share on this platform, whether it's, my own or the people that I interview, hopefully that what I see in stories and the value I find in stories, the listeners of Gravitated Arts can take away those treasures hidden within everyone's journey and be able to apply that to their own journey and to be able to use that to create positive light within the world we live in. Because sometimes there's sections in the world that we live in that just want to dim the light. They don't want light to be seen, and they just want darkness to be everywhere. And I just want to be able to have this platform that helps impact the world positively through words and stories. And the thing with words is there's a proverb, I think, that says a good word. It says a good word. It says be kind, Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. And that ties back into words and the goal to use words to impact the world, because as you just heard in that proverb, like a kind word cheers it up, it cheers up the heart. That there was from Proverbs 12:25, and just to read it again, it says, anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. And it's really interesting that I finished on that verse, because right at the start I mentioned how in 2019 depression and anxiety started having a play in my own mind, and I turned to God, and through His Word I was able to come back up. I was able to stand from I was able to move out of the darkness that I was in and come into the light. And so these are the why for Gravitated Arts. Gravitated Arts, it's not about I, it's about my teacher, it's about younger people, it's about the world, trying to impact the world positively through words and stories. And again, I just wanted to acknowledge that the quote for Gravitated Arts, that says it's not about I, it does tie into my beliefs. I bring this up in a sense because I want to acknowledge the fact that the foundation of where this comes from, I want to acknowledge God in saying that, I pray about this. I pray about everything that I do for Gravitated Arts. And it's just, it's not a sense of religion this, religion that. It's got nothing to do with trying to shove religion down anyone's throats. And I hope that it never comes off like that. I feel like whether you believe or whether you don't believe, it'd be nice to live in a world where we have a mutual respect for one another. The non-believer can still have a relationship with the believer, and the believer can still have a relationship with the non-believer, and religion doesn't kind of get in the way of human nature. At the end of the day, we are human, and it'd be nice to be able to acknowledge each other for human first, and that our beliefs don't get in the way of being kind to one another. It's like racism. It really sucks when someone sees your color before they see you. And I wish the same thing for beliefs, whether you believe or whether you don't believe. I hope that you can see people for people first. And, I really hope that our beliefs don't create controversy around the people that we meet, because I see this sometimes, and it's really sad to see that beliefs can create controversy. It can create tension between relationships and friendships. And it sucks because whether you're a believer or a non-believer, I believe you should respect your neighbor and treat your neighbor the way you'd want to be treated. It's a golden rule. Do to others as you'd want to be done unto you. And to finish, understand that you believe in what you believe in because of your upbringing. My beliefs and your beliefs are going to be entirely different because we had two different upbringings. We only know what we know because of what we were taught. We only believe in what we believe in because of how we were raised. It's like that famous quote. I think it says hate. No one is born with hate. Hate is taught, and it's the same thing again with anything. With beliefs. For myself, I wasn't born believing. I came to believe. And I came to believe because of how I was taught, how I was raised. And it draws all the way back to my mother. The love she had for me allowed me to understand the love God had for me. And, whether you believe or whether you don't believe, let's remove that eagerness to want to judge first. And let's remove judging and be more accepting and loving, because in this world we live in, there's so much good within all of us. And it's kind of like a mining space. With mine, the treasure is always within the ground. It's underneath. You have to dig it out of the ground. And that's the same with all of us. All of us have good within us. And like that mining space, we have to look within and pull it out and bring it to the light and put it into the world. And once the good within us comes into the world becomes richer for it. Before I check out, I just wanted to say thank you. If you made it this far, I can't believe you made it this far. I can't believe you decided to listen to me. But hey, thank you for listening to me. If you're listening right now on Spotify or maybe Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, so that you can get a notification every time Gravitated Arts drops.